I'm PC Genie. No wait, what was it you did earlier? Greetings, followers of the Genie, which is apparently how I introduce my videos.
Yeah, pretty much.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Ryan. I used to make videos and I will in the future. Under the alias of Flyboypuoi or FBP.
Indeed.
I used to be his cameraman many years ago.
Indeed you were.
In fact, pretty much most of your old videos I was...
Yeah, you were doing shooting and things as well.
Yeah, but even if I wasn't doing something, I was behind the camera, operating it.
So, some basic sword fighting. You're going to learn things today, Ryan. Get in stance.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
Right, so, how about taking a stance like guard lady, which is... Imagine if you were having it two-handed, like a baseball bat.
I'm really going to hit something.
If you do it right. So obviously you won't be going... None of this action figure stuff, so actually good cuts can be done anyway.
Oblivion style.
Basic cut is pretty much a bit like casting a fishing rod. Yeah.
Okay.
It's that idea. So normally start if you're right-handed, or if you're going from the right, left foot forward. If you're going from the left, right foot forward. And then when you do a cut, normally do something that is called a passing step, which is like walking. Really that simple. Nope, you're twisting yourself. What you do is, when you do the cut, you sort of extend it forward, almost like you're doing a punching motion of your hand, and then rotating your wrist to cast the sword out. Makes for a nice, quick, snappy cut. And then as you do that, you just do that one single walking step forward. And the end result is this. And of course, you can go further into another position.
Like so? Except better.
Yes. Just forward a bit. I wish I had more room, but there you go.
Well, could you show me slow motion perhaps, then I'll be able to mimic.
So, in terms of the foot positioning, especially those who can't see because it's a bit off camera, actually.
Oh, suddenly the camera's moved.
You can now see the foot positioning. Anyway, so you would have, in the case of going from your right, if you're right-handed or even left-handed, you have your front foot, in this case the left foot now, pointing forwards, pretty much straight in front of you. The other foot just a bit behind, about sort of shoulder width apart, and pointing sort of out at a 45-degree angle. It's usually the best, because then it's a good strong stance. So if I'm trying to do this sort of push, you've got a stable structure. Whereas if you're just like that, if you stood with your feet just next to each other sideways,
you'd be able to just.
So yes, like I say,
like
good starting footwork. Yeah. Because if you have your foot completely sideways on 90 degrees, if something does try to push against you or you're trying to go back, you could end up going twisting your ankle and ouch, out of commission. So, and go into the position. This is just what we'll go for now. And then, like I say, passing step forward, so it's just like that, and you end up just like I mentioned before with not quite so wide apart. With this time I've got my right foot forward, right foot is pointing forwards, left foot 45-degree diagonal angle.
And then what with the arm?
And with the arm, like I mentioned, that casting motion with a fishing rod. You can do a bit of a twist of your shoulders to add a bit of power and reach into your cut, and then just cast it out. Like I say, you don't even need to do a whole, this sort of motion.
Yeah.
Pretty much just punch out, but obviously using your wrist to point the sword forwards. Give it a try.
Oops, I slipped my foot a little bit there.
We are wearing socks, but...
Yes. So...
And just like using a punch, you've got that shoulder twist gives, and also the hip twist gives a bit of power as you're doing that step. So it's the equivalent to going like that. Obviously, in something like boxing, you'd be doing it a lot quicker with lots of jabs and things, but it's the same sort of core concept anyway. Like I say, with the sword, and then you'd go for a quick cut, or you can cut all the way through into another position. Give it a shot.
Oh, what? Sorry?
Brilliant. Right.
No, say, okay, what was...
So, with that passing step,
Yep.
and of course, just like boxing, giving that punch forward,
Like I've done boxing, yeah.
bit of, well, that sort of concept anyway. So pretty much, almost like throwing a javelin or throwing a punch, rather than going around.
I've never done either of those.
It doesn't matter. Rather than bringing your hand around, just like a piston. That's something you're more familiar with. Straightforward.
I did do some fishing last summer actually, first time.
Well, there we are. So that sort of piston motion, pretty much punching forward, but with your sword, obviously you can just use the wrist to point the sword forwards. And if you've got that all in time, which just takes a bit of practice and rehearsing, you pretty much get it all in one action. So the forward motion of the walking, that twist in the shoulders and hips, the piston motion of your arm, and that rotate in the wrist, all happen at once and then cut. See that? Give it another try.
Oops, that was terrible. You can cut that
Yeah,
now.
you did the step and then you sort of cut
I put
afterwards.
all of my focus on the step. Let me do it sort of slow. So you do the step and that essentially.
You're sort of, admittedly you can sort of lunge a bit like that if you want to really stretch for a cut, but just for a basic cut it helps to keep, I mean you see how we're starting, you're obviously getting that correct.
Yes.
Even weight distribution between the legs.
Going too far pretty much.
And then on your step, you should pretty much just be the reverse of exactly the same thing. If your legs are too far apart or otherwise awkward, then it's not going to work. Yeah, that was better.
Yeah, I'm keeping them closer together this time.
You can pivot on the balls of your feet, and then.
That was a good one.
And actually, with objects like a buckler, one of the key differences is just the fact that you'd be covering with your shield. So sometimes in the movies you see people doing stuff like that, but really you'd be doing the same kind of motion again, that piston action. But what you do is the buckler will often cover your hand, so then you just go pretty much tight against each other, almost like your hands are tied. You can pretty much imagine the hands are tied to each other, so from here or about here, wherever, and then with that, get a nice tight action going.
Sorry.
And one thing that will be good for practice will be swapping sides. So now you'll have your right foot forward, left foot back, sword on your left shoulder, and we'll be doing exactly the same kind of motion again.
So like this. Except better.
That's awkward. So again, it's that same sort of piston motion where you're bringing your hand as much directly forward as possible rather than around, and then again you just do that rotation of the wrist. The rest is just that stepping motion I mentioned earlier. So they would look like this. So you've got that same piston motion, wrist rotation, hip and shoulders, footwork, and all of that combines into a reasonably powerful cut.
Bad.
That was more like it. Go again.
It needs to be a bit more controlled, I think.
You are lunging a bit, so you are ending up sort of going, instead of just
I don't have the wrist
That.
strength. My sword often flails a bit at the end.
that just comes with practice. Another thing, quickly to you viewers, one thing that will help with any wrist strength is holding the sword out in some kind of lunge or in some pretend high guard like it's saber for a very long time until your arm tires and you nearly drop the thing. Doing that, I just brushed my button a bit. But yes, so apart from that, with thrust, it's pretty much the same kind of thing. We can do from high, this is something called window guard, which is the same sort of thing before. So you can imagine like this is the guard lady that you did earlier.
Yep.
The only difference is, swords like this, point towards your opponent, imagining like you're ready to stab their face, and the sword pretty much level with your head or just above. And then that same sort of piston action again, forwards, except of course you don't need to rotate the sword anymore because it's already forward. So you do that passing step, shoulders and hips, thrust, do that.
I'm not sure if I'll hold it.
Yeah.
Let me do it slow. So, do the movement.
The C passing step.
Problem is I can't turn the sword, like, it wants to go to the left.
I think what you're doing is a bit of a hammer grip. In fact, try swapping these.
Right.
That one's a bit more forward weighted. But rather than holding it like a hammer, such as this, which is fine for bashing rocks, try to have it, a YouTuber called Scalgrim calls it a handshake grip. So, sort of looser, your thumb goes...
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'll show it to the camera. So here's standard hammer grip, and then there's more like this grip. There's a saber grip, just like that, the hammer grip, and this is pretty much halfway in between. And then from that, it's easy to deliver a thrust straight out.
That was really bad.
And in fact, you can easily retract back into something like guard lady or window guard on the opposite side and do exactly the same stuff. So, you can probably see what's coming up next. From the left this time. So this is the same sort of window guard. This is coming from the left. So it looks like that.
Sort of like this. This is messy.
It is. You obviously wouldn't hold that position forever, but you're only going to use it quickly. So around there, and then same kind of thrust again with that passing step forward.
I feel like I'm going to break my ankle.
But yeah, the footwork often is something that catches you. Again, it's just like a walking motion. With that,
I feel like
if it helps,
wrist doesn't,
twisting your wrist around, because the first time,
oh yeah, that works.
The first time we pretty much just went straight out. Now I notice it actually going from the left, like you say, it is awkward going like that. Even though you can, it might help in this case to rotate around just as you finish. And again,
Yeah, hold halfway.
a bit of a nice relaxed grip, so no hammer tight death grip fist, just
Yeah.
nice and relaxed with all of the movements I mentioned, footwork, hips and shoulders, piston motion with your arm, extend the point. So that's a type of basic thrust you can do, and the same kinds of things can be done from low as well. So this is something which in German tends to be called plow, well, it's the plow guard. I suppose the Italian stuff we had earlier. That's two-handed, or just this single-handed. A shield, something like that. And then same kind of action with that piston motion and all the things I mentioned before. Deliver a thrust out. And there. Imagine somewhere like off-screen that light switch or something as the opponent's face. Aim for it and deliver a thrust.
Not bad. I thought it would be much worse than I am. Still not good though.
And, although admittedly it's not something you'd often do single-handed, and more you'd probably do two-handed, two-handed swords, there is still the same kind of equivalent that you can do from the left. And that's just going, same thing, right foot forward, left foot back, swords on the left in this sort of stance where the sword is level with my hips, points slightly up, pointing towards the opponent's face, and I just go thrust forward. And again, it always helps to have a nice relaxed grip. It's something that tends to happen to newer people, which is where you have quite a tight sort of grip, almost like you don't want your sword to drop out. You mentioned earlier about how people can get disarmed, but that's why sometimes people just grip so tightly. But nice relaxed grip, that's a bit of give, and that's good movement. So yes, those are some basic sword cuts. Now, going from the same sort of sword cuts, we are going to go on the other side of the room, and I'm going to defend. So, there are a few things you can do in terms of binds, so we'll do a couple of exercises. Now, then let's probably start from somewhere like here in Guard Lady.
Yep.
You extend one of these types of cuts as if you're chopping my head, neck, shoulders, somewhere like that. Go on. So from here, when we enter into a bind, one of the things that's worth mentioning, people, is that if the swords are sort of flat on flat, when you've got this, they're very much likely to slide around. With edge on edge contact, especially with actual sharp swords, there's a degree of bite, so they tend to stick together more and there's more friction. And from here, I know, I can actually feel the contact. So if you're pushing, pressing hard, I can feel that. If you're sort of maybe feeling like you're going to retract away and loosening your grip, then all of that you can feel a lot more in the sword as opposed to on the flat. From a bind, if you react in the correct time, there are a few things you can do. One example is grab the blade and cut out, which with certain longer weapons you can add a step to that to cut out. Now it's worth mentioning, yes, you can grab a sharp blade as long as you don't do two things. Don't impact because you'll chop yourself, and don't slide because the draw cut will slice you open. Like a paper cut, but fatal. But as long as you get that tight grip on the sword, not sliding, not impacting, and of course even if they do react and try to pull the sword away, cut fingers or a cut neck. I know which I prefer. So that's one of the other things. So if we do the same bind again. Alright, so now I feel, because you're weak at the sword, here's something else. Sorry, I'm piling a lot of lessons. I might need to pause and replay some of these bits, but there's a degree of strong and weak. So, go on, push as hard as you can, Ran. Come on, you're a man. 2 hands. Go on. Nothing happening. Well, actually, I was worried about the sword bending. Go on, 2 hands. Yeah. Whereas, if I had my weak on the strong, single-handed, one push mill. That is the strong versus the weak. So, in one of these binds, let's do it again. Okay, so I'm noticing my strong, this sort of half of the blade, is on his weak of the blade. So one thing I can do is I'm able to do this extra push. I'll take advantage of that. His sword is pointing away from my face. It's safe for now. Whereas here, Pops to keep it on the Quillins, sorry. Because I was able to take his sword offline and gain the line onto him, I'm able to just slide it along and I can go into somewhere like face, neck, chest, wherever. Now the opposite scenario would be, if we do the bind again, and this time I'm going more towards him catching me on my weak. Now I know he can just push and probably try to do the same thing to me. So what I think is, okay, if I keep this going, he's going to win. So I'll take a new angle. So if you start pushing, I feel that, I disengage and go around. And this is something that you can do. If you feel that your opponent is gaining the upper hand and you can't push them away or close in and do something else, go away, then what you can actually do is quite simply just take a different line. So you were closed on this line, I couldn't cut you from my right, so I went around and cut you from my left. There are all sorts of other things as well. There's also close play. Very fun stuff. Let's bind again. Cut. Lovely. Now, notice we're a bit close. Look at that. His Quillins, my Quillins. So I'm in the range. I can touch his arm. That's an advantage for both of us, depending on who reacts the quickest. So, what I want to do is try to take his weapon. So, as you can see, I've got it behind his back and I just twist it out. Now, for the exact technique, that's the concept, but to show the exact technique, we'll go through that again slowly. So, slowly, so we do the bind. Now, I did specifically, in fact, if we move around this way, this should make it clearer. I went around, so I used my Quillin to hook around his sword, so even if he wanted to cut back up on my face, that can't happen. Quillins are very useful, by the way. I then grabbed his hand and basically I'm tucking it, well, hand, into my belly so I can keep as much control as possible, even if he wants to pull himself out again. And then ideally, I'm taking, let's rotate around, yep, this way. So I've gone so my back is to his back, and then while that's still happening, I can either keep my sword or I can drop it if I need to, and then I can just wrench the sword out of his grip. And one of the ways to make sure you can do that is to go against the thumb. And this shall lead on to our next lesson, which is in dagger.